Welcome to the Jennifer J. Hammond Podcast. Jennifer is a licensed realtor, educator, speaker, and best-selling author. Jennifer's goal is to help you find your yay in every day. Jennifer is grateful for the opportunity to educate, empower, and inspire you with powerful conversations, insights, and new viewpoints. Here's your host, Jennifer J. Hammond.
This is Jennifer Hammond, and I'm here with a wonderful guest, Robert Miller. Yay! Welcome, Robert.
Hey, thanks so much. Hi, Jennifer.
I'm so glad to have you. I love your story. So you were a part-time musician for most of your life, but you always dreamed of becoming that rock star, and you became a rock star in your 60s. And, you know, when people hit age 60, they don't really think about, oh my gosh, I always wanted to live out that teenage dream or, you know, the childhood dream of becoming a musician, a successful musician, not just somebody who, you know, plays in the basement. And will you talk a little bit about, I think I should preface it with, right now, I feel like we all need to be able to dream a little bit bigger and to make bigger goals for ourselves. And so often we don't live that life that we should live. And so I would love for you to share a little bit about your story, but, you know, and how did you make it become a reality?
It's kind of the opposite of the way everybody else in the music industry has gone. So I took the path less traveled, shall we say.
Yay!
Look, I was a musician almost from birth. My father played music. He was a trumpet player, self-taught. And my parents decided that I was going to be a musician, whether I liked it or not. They started me out on piano when I was about 5 years old. And like every kid at that age, I hated to practice and I hated piano. And they said to me, okay, you can give up piano, but you have to learn something else. And I picked trumpet because that was my father's instrument. And I played trumpet throughout junior high and high school. But, you know, I'm a child of the 60s. And in the middle of the 60s, there was this little group from England that came around, and the Beatles, of course. And suddenly it wasn't very cool to be playing trumpet any longer. So I taught myself guitar, and then I taught myself the bass. And I became a bass player simply because I was the only one of my friends that knew the treble clef already from the trumpet. And we knew that the Beatles had this guy that played the bass. So I became a bass player. Anyway, it was always my dream at that time that I was going to play music full time. I was going to become a rock and roll star. I had my little band. We played everything that was on the radio, and we played at the churches and the temples and all of that, you know. But as you get older, even if you have a dream, what happens usually is life gets in the way. All of a sudden you have obligations, or you took a path, or you have a job that it's not conducive to it. And that's what happened to me. My life just kind of went off track from what my dream was. And I regretted the heck out of it. I kept saying to myself all along, no, one of these days I'm going to get back to it. One of these days. And that turned into literally decades. And finally, even though I was playing music and I was doing some things, it was never a full-time occupation. It was never what I wanted to do. And I got into my early 60s and I said, what am I waiting for? And I took the steps to try and finally push this thing forward. And the remarkable thing, Jennifer, is that it's worked out better than I ever could have imagined. I mean, in just 5 years, yay! 5 years, I've got 9 albums, including a Billboard #1. I've got over 4 million video views. I've got over 1 million Spotify streams, got over 50,000 Facebook fans. I've played festivals and concerts around the world. I've opened for such great acts as Edgar Winter and Blues Traveler and Boney James. So it's like a dream come true. And I literally am living proof that, you know, you're just never too old and it's never too late to try and follow your dream.
Well, and I think that it's so important that, again, you are an inspiration. And I love all the things that you've done, because so often someone may be listening right now and think, oh, I can't do that. That's good for you, but it's not good for me. And I think that it's so important to understand anybody can achieve the dream that they want if they just continue to, again, so often I think we underestimate the amount of effort it's going to take us to accomplish our dreams. And we kind of have the idea, well, we're just going to get discovered and it's all going to work out and be super easy. And as you probably know from practicing, like I remember I was practicing, I was learning to play the guitar because my brother's a guitar teacher. And I was saying, my fingers hurt. And he goes, well, obviously you're not practicing enough, are you?
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely correct. It's not a straight path. Nothing is. I summarize everything and it all sounds great, but trust me, it was one step forward, two steps back, three steps to the side. You have to persevere. You have to have a tenacity, and you have to have a dream. And, some people have asked me, as you have, can anybody do this? And I think everybody's got a dream. Everybody starts out in life with some kind of a dream. And usually when you're a teenager, the dream is big. Not too many teenagers say, my dream is to become an accountant. Okay. Their dream is they want to be an astronaut. They want to be a doctor. They want to be a nuclear scientist. They want to be a musician, a dancer, an artist. And again, most of us lose these dreams along the way. So I came up with an acronym, which I call DREAM, in order to try and kind of orient people towards how can they do this in their lives. May I go through that with you?
Yes, please. Let's go through that, because I think it's a great idea.
So D obviously stands for dream. Everybody's got to have a dream, and everybody does have a dream, whether you realize it or not. It may be an old dream. It may be a current dream. It may be in the arts. It may be just to open up a business or to do something that you never really got around to doing before. But almost everybody, I think, has a dream. The R stands for realistic. The dream has to be realistic. Let's not kid ourselves. If I wanted to be a professional baseball player when I was in my 60s, unless I was Satchel Paige, I don't think that was going to work out too well.
Yes.
The E, to me, is the most important step: execute. Everybody and everything in life needs an action plan. How am I going to take that first baby step? What do I do after that first baby step? How do I get from A to Z? You need an action plan for whatever your dream happens to be. A, I like to say, is adjust, because there's no plan that goes right from A to Z perfectly. You got to be willing to be flexible. The fighter Mike Tyson had this great phrase where he said, everybody's got a plan in boxing until they get hit in the face. And I think that's a great little motto to remember. And M is for measure. How do I measure success in my dream? For me, it was easy because I'm in the music business. So it was, the music that I was able to create, the albums, the success, the fans, etc. But everybody's dream is going to have different measurements of success. And you need to be in touch with what those measurements are for you. But the real message here is, if I did it at a later stage in life, and I did it in a field, as you know, it's all youth oriented. You got to be in your 20s to make it in music. So I went down a completely different path. It worked out for me. I think it can work out for almost anybody.
I think it's really important. And I love the fact that you've taken all those, the acronym DREAM and turned it into things, because like you just said about, I love the adjust, because again, it's not a straight line to any dream that we have. And so often, sometimes we think our dream is blah. We think it's like, you have an album that's a Billboard #1, but maybe it is being, as you said, the opening act for somebody you either really admire, or getting to travel, or having the Facebook fans that you want, or just knowing that you wrote a song. If you write, again, whatever your dream is, making sure that that's what you're focusing on. Because I know there's some people who write songs like when I got to interview Luke Bryan, and it was so interesting because all he did was write songs for other people for a long time. And one of his goals was just to be able to write a song that actually really made a difference in someone's life. And then, of course, as he moved on, his dream kept changing because he achieved that goal, and then you move past to the next one. And I bet you have stories like that as well, where you achieve something that you were like, oh my gosh, now I need another dream. I need a bigger dream, or I need a different dream. You keep adjusting.
You're right. You start out thinking to yourself, I'm going to do one type of thing. In music, it was, I had a certain genre that I was working within. But along the way, for example, I'm trying to be very relevant in my life in general. And there were certain events that took place in the world. And I said, I needed to write something that reflected my feeling about those events. The first one was a terrible event. If you remember, about 2 years ago, there was a massacre in a synagogue in Pennsylvania. It was called the Tree of Life Synagogue.
Yeah.
And the day after that happened, I wrote a song that I called Tree of Life. And it's completely different from anything else that I wrote. It's a very somber, almost melancholy kind of song. It's an anti-gun song. I couldn't stand the fact that here we have in 2018 and still in 2020, guns are so rampant in this country and all the trouble that they cause. So I wrote this song, and it's just piano and my singer. So there's no band. I'm not playing on it. And it touched a nerve. And that was important to me. And I've written other, I'll call them message songs afterwards. I try to be as subtle as I can because I don't want to beat people over the head. But I really feel that that's part of a musician's obligation to write songs of protest, to write songs that are relevant. In the 60s, they did it all the time. Look what Dylan did. Look what Crosby, Stills, and Nash did with Ohio after the Kent State massacre. And I feel that that's part of my legacy, and I needed to keep that going.
And I love the fact that you say songs of protest, and I'd say songs of peace as well. But one of the things I think music is so special is that music can bring anybody, any community together. And, as you saw in the year 2020 with COVID-19, I loved some of the videos that you saw from New York City where different musicians would play, and then Italy, and oh my gosh, all over the world, you would see these musicians and they would find ways to communicate or to connect. And even if it was out a window or if it was through a video and being able to communicate and connect through video feeds. But music is something that I think also touches us on whether it's protesting something or it's, peaceful, celebrating peace or wanting peace or wanting whatever. I think that music is something that is so profound as far as an art form that, again, connects us as a community and connects neighborhoods together. And I know I shared with you, one of the things that I was so fascinated with was when you take out music programs out of a community, that we find that crime rates go up. And I realized that, again, I think we need to stay focused on how can we be creative. Even if we protest something, how can we say it in a way that somebody is willing to take a different viewpoint or take a new look or, see something with new eyes. And I think so often that's what we get in these patterns and these kind of ridges. And then we're not willing to look past or look at it again. And, just like you said with, the song that you wrote for the Tree of Life, and I'd say talking about, something so painful as a massacre. I mean, it's like the 9/11, some of the songs that came out after 9/11. I mean, they're some of my favorites in the fact that they bring us together as a community in a way where we're all finding ways where we can bring us together, but also make the world a better place. And so I thank you for all that you're doing. And so I'm curious if you had some advice for someone, and sometimes I say as a child, but someone who maybe is in their 60s and is thinking about, well, what can I do? How would you encourage them to follow their dream, whether they want to be a rock star or if they just really always wanted to write a song or a poem or something artistic?
Yes, absolutely. But before, I just wanted to respond to what you just said a moment ago. I spent the whole summer saying to myself, what was I going to do to continue my music in the midst of a pandemic? And how could I make the world a better place in doing it? And what I realized, for me at least, is that I felt there was one overall emotion that was going to get us through this pandemic, and it was love.
Yeah.
Because love is an exhilarating and a healing emotion at the same time. So the album that I recorded over the summer is called Summer of Love 2020.
Beautiful.
And it will be released at the end of January. It's an album of songs that I wrote and that I sing that are focused on two aspects. One is the pandemic and the result and how it affected all of us. And the second is love as an emotion to get us through the pandemic. So I just wanted to mention that because you're right, music transcends so many things in life.
Well, hopefully we can grab one of those songs and we can add it to the end of this podcast. So when we end, we'll end with one of your songs. That
would be awesome. But to answer your other question about what can somebody do, to me, the most important step is that first step. You have to be willing to say, you know what, there's something that I always wanted to do, and I'm going to do it. And I believe that the pandemic, interestingly, has helped in this regard, because the one thing that I think it's done for everybody, and it's not a good thing, but nonetheless, it does it. It puts us more in touch with our mortality. Mm. Everybody just kind of assumes that their life will go on and on and on. But now we've seen so many terrible losses in this world and in this country. You know, at this moment, we're over 300,000 people that have lost their lives. So nobody knows exactly what the future is going to hold. And at a time like this, and we're coming up on year end and New Year's resolutions and bucket lists, you have to think about, what do I want to accomplish with the time that I have left? What do I want to do with my life? How can I improve the world? And that's what I think causes people to say, okay, I have a dream, whatever it is, whether it's big or small, I got to take that first step. Yeah. And to me, the biggest question of all, can I take that first step?
Can I do it? But I think the thing is also know that there are other people that will help you. Because so often I think when we have that moment of, I want to do it, but we're afraid, that fear factor that comes in. And I know for you probably could say that along the way, you would have never been able to do it all by yourself, and you've had other people help, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, my family has been a wonderful help. My musicians have been a wonderful help. There's no way you can do these things all by yourself. You have to have assistance, and you have to have the right attitude, and you have to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know we're just about out of time. I definitely will you go ahead and email me one of those songs, and we'll make it as the ending as we go out. But would you go ahead and share with people if they wanted to find out more about getting your album or finding out more about you? Do you have a website, social media? Sure. What would you share?
Thank you. Well, the mothership, so to speak, is my band, which is Project Grand Slam. So just go to www.projectgrandslam.com. And you can see everything and hear everything about what we've done. And for your viewers, I have a special gift that I wanted to give. The last album that we put out as a band, it's called East Side Sessions. And luckily, this album was finished just before the pandemic hit. But if you go to our store, which is thepgsstore.com, and you go to East Side Sessions, there's a digital download of the album for everybody for free. All they have to do is enter a code at the end, which is D.R.E.A.M, D.R.E.A.M, and you get the album for free, and you can hear everything else that we do, and maybe some of that will tickle your fancy too.
I I love that. Thank you so much, Robert. That was so beautiful. I'll make sure we put that in the notes as well for people who want to. So dream, and we'll end with one of your songs. I am so grateful for you being with us today. So this was Robert Miller, and like I said, we'll put in the notes where to get that wonderful gift. Thank you for all that you do, and thanks for inspiring us to follow our dreams.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And as I said, we'll get that song. We'll put it out of here. But as I say every week, I hope if you're listening to this and also to Robert,
The Jennifer Hammond Show.